Welcome to Healthy Knees for You, episode number 5. And today we are talking about why and how you should move more to hurt less. Does that make sense to you? It might not, so stay tuned. Well, hi there. If we haven't met yet, my name is Robin Robertson. I am the founder of Healthy Knees Coach, and I am here to share the secrets, the steps, and the savvy so that your knees feel better and you can get back to doing the things that you love in life. Today we are talking about how and why to move more so that your knees hurt less. Okay, that might not make sense at first thought, but stick with me and I'll explain it to you. Today we will cover 3 things: the synovial fluid and how that is the oil for your joint, why motion is lotion and rest is rust, and what kind of motion is best for your knees. All right, so many people think that because their knee hurts, that you shouldn't move it. And in some cases, that's absolutely true. If you've had a major trauma or your doctor is saying don't move it, then certainly don't move it. But if you suffer from an achy knee, an arthritic knee, or maybe you are through your physical therapy after a knee surgery and wondering what you should continue to do, then you'll want to stay tuned for sure. Here's what happens if you stop using your knee as much because you are afraid of causing more knee pain. When you stop using your knee so much, you'll probably lose some muscle mass. And when you lose muscle mass, your metabolism slows down. When your metabolism slows down, it is likely that you'll gain weight because you might not have adjusted how much you eat. And when you gain weight, guess what? Your knee is going to hurt more on every step. And when your knee hurts more on every step, guess what? You want to move even less. And so you get into this spiral of pain that reduces and reduces and reduces your movement until you get to this point where you don't even want to get out of your chair. Okay, so I want to help you break that spiral of pain and get back to healthy movement so that your knee starts functioning better. So let's start talking about how that works. Now, inside of our Healthy Knees Formula program, we plan all of this out for you and we take baby steps along the way so that your knee movement expands throughout the program, and by the end you're doing things that you actually never thought that you could, and you're feeling so good about it. What's the secret? All right, let's get to that. I've got some notes here because it's so important. I don't want to forget a thing. So let's talk about that synovial fluid. Okay, so the synovial fluid is a nice, thick, viscous substance that's inside of your knee. It's produced by the joint capsule. So around your femur and tibia is a joint capsule, and the inner layers of that are the synovium, and the synovium produces synovial fluid. The outside of that joint capsule is a kind of a tough, thicker layer that helps protect your knee joint. So what helps your synovium to produce more thicker synovial fluid, and why do you care? Your synovial fluid is like your oil. It also nourishes your cartilage and reduces friction inside of your knee. When you are bending and flexing your knee joint, that helps to pump the synovial fluid around. And your synovial fluid also does several other things. So let's get on to why motion is lotion and rest is rest. When your knee is not moving much, think of it like a rusty hinge. You know, you find those on a, let's say, a fence, and it's really hard to open the fence because that hinge has gotten so rusty. That's kind of what your knee might feel like when you're not moving it much. You get up out of the chair and you feel achy and stiff, and it takes a while to get moving again to feel like you've got some freedom of movement. Okay, so we want to take that rusty old hinge of your knee and turn it into a well-lubricated functioning joint so that you feel less achy and have less pain. When you are moving your knee regularly, you're also increasing your blood flow as you exercise, and that brings more oxygen and nutrients into the synovial membrane, and the synovial membrane then is able to use that to help nourish your cartilage. We want healthy cartilage for sure. Your cellular waste is also removed because exercise triggers a biological response to clear out any damaged cells. They get broken down, and it's kind of like taking out the trash. Of course, then exercise also helps build and strengthen muscle, ligaments, and your tendons. You can kind of think of Newton's third law, which says for every action there is a reaction. So when your muscle tendon is tugging on the bone of your leg, of your tibia, then your tibia is tugging back, and that helps to make your bones stronger as well as the muscle and the tendon stronger. So having strong supporting structures around your knee, your ligaments and your tendons are going to help support your knee better as well. Okay, those strong tissues are kind of like a brace for your own joint. Now let's move on to what kind of motion is best for your knee. I want to break it down into several different categories. We have impact activities and non-impact activities. When I'm talking about impact, that means your foot is striking the ground on every step. Think walking or running. That's an impact activity because your foot is taking the impact of your body weight into the solid surface below. A non-impact activity would be like swimming or riding a bike, or an elliptical is a low impact activity. Your body weight is still being carried by your feet, where when you are bicycling, the body weight is carried by the seat, not your feet, so your body weight's not going through your knees. And when you're swimming, your body weight is carried by the water. So we've moved into that weight bearing versus non-weight bearing. You can kind of think of it like if you are standing, you're going to be weight bearing. If you are seated, that's considered non-weight bearing because your weight is in your seat rather than your feet. And non-weight bearing is also swimming. The other thing I like to consider with knee movement is lateral movement. How much side to side movement do you have? Because for some people, like it was for me, that can be very painful. So you may want to choose an activity that does not create that side to side movement. All right. And then let's talk about knee bend. How much your knee bends in normal movement activities. So let's consider that your knee is, when it's absolutely straight, let's call that 0. And I'm going to grab my goniometer, which is a measuring device that I like to use for joints, so that tells us what angle we're at. So if we are at 0, here's my goniometer. It has a whole range of movement to it. So if your knee is straight, let's pretend this is your knee, there's 0. If you are able to have a maximum knee bend, which I can't anymore with my replaced knees, A maximum knee bend would look more like this. 135 degrees. Let me see if I can find that. Right about here. So that's about as much. Let's say this is your upper leg bone, your femur, and then this would be your lower leg, and your heel is going to be up close to your butt. So that's about 135 degrees. That's the biggest knee bend you can make, essentially. Some people can do a little more. Many people can do a lot less. With both of my knees replaced now, I'm at about 125 degrees. 125 degrees looks like this. All right, 125 is a little less, but it lets you do most things in life. So I notice when my knees are not feeling like they're bending very much, sometimes my knee will get hung up on something if I'm stepping over it. Like if I'm stepping over a log, sometimes I have a hard time getting my foot over that too. So 125 degrees is about what you need for most movement in life. Now, when you are walking, your knee bends about 65 degrees. So that's about here. When you are bending over to pick up an object off the ground, it's about 70 degrees. So that's about here. Again, pretending that this is your upper leg, this is your lower leg, and this is your knee joint. When you are going to climb stairs, you need about 85 degrees. Here's 85, not quite to 90. When you are standing up from a chair, you need about 95 degrees. So that's a little more than that, 90-degree angle. And if you want to ride a bike, that's going to take 110 degrees at the deepest part of the bend of your knee. And if you're going to go into a squat, then it's going to be anywhere in that range from 90 to 115 degrees, which is about here. And then again, like I said, 125 degrees covers most activities, but you're not going to be able to squat down and sit on your heels. That always proves challenging. I haven't been able to do that for years. Okay, so let me put my goniometer down. So you kind of have an idea of how much your knee needs to bend in order to do the activities. Now, if you're thinking about non-weight bearing activity, because if standing up, if walking, if running, if walking hurts your knees, then I want you to consider low to no weight bearing activities so that you are still moving your knee but reducing the amount of weight there. So an elliptical, where your feet are on the pedals and it is forcing you to take an even stride with each foot, so that's a good thing, especially if you're post-surgery and you're working on getting movement back into your knees. Then the elliptical is weight bearing, so your weight is still in your feet, but it's not considered impact because your foot is not striking the pedals. Your feet sit on the pedals and they move around with the action. Another no weight bearing activity that is a high bend in knees, which may take you to that 125, 135 degree bend, is stationary rowing. So using an ergometer, you are pushing off with your legs, so you're getting your muscle work there, and when you return for the deep part of the row, then you are bending your knees quite a bit, so 125 to 135 degrees there. For some people, that's great. For other people, that amount of bend causes some knee discomfort. When you are swimming, your leg goes from straight to about 40 degrees. So 40 degrees up, about here, and you kick down. So you are moving in this range. Not a lot of knee bend here. And I have found that for some people, including me, swimming bothered my knees because my collateral ligaments inside of my joint, or the outside of my joint, had gotten loose over time because I had gotten quite knock-kneed. So it was especially loose, stretched on one side. And that meant that when I kicked, there was a little bit of knee wobble along the way, and that knee wobble hurt, especially after swimming. My knees were very sore from that little bit of knee wobble. So if you can swim, great. It's a fantastic full body activity. If you find that swimming bothers your knees, then I encourage you to go to bicycling. In bicycling, you have a 25-degree knee bend. So when your leg is the most extended, it should be about 25 to 35 degrees, somewhere in this zone here. And when you are pedaling, it's going to come up to about 110 degrees. Let me get to 110. Oops, way past it. Okay, so about here. So 110. So you're going from here to here when you're cycling. And so if you think of that action as being your pump in your knee, then my favorite activity to move more and hurt less is cycling, because you're going to the almost straight but not quite straight, and going to 110, so not all the way bent but a lot of bent. And if you find that you're not able to bend to 110 degrees, then there are ways to work into that if it's a surgical leg, you'll want to put that surgical leg on the lowest part of the pedal, and you'll just rock back and forth until you can work yourself into that full range of motion. And you might find that as you get to have more motion in your knee, that you'll go backwards first and then begin to go forward. Okay, so I love cycling for your knees because you are getting a deeper knee bend without the stress. I find that swimming and rowing can create that stress, and cycling is going to reduce it. I'll have a whole video on the best way to cycle, because there are definite do's and don'ts and ways that you need to set up your bike to protect your knees. Not all cycling is equivalent, and I want you to think about, I'll just give you this hint now, if you are on a bike, I hope it has an RPM meter so that you can tell how fast you're pedaling. I prefer that people are 60 RPM at the slowest, so that's about 1 per second, going on up to a base of 90 RPM, so that's about 1.5 pedal strokes per second. And so in that, you're getting that healthy movement for your knees. You don't want to have a lot of tension on there. You should not be struggling to pedal that fast because it's too hard. We want to go with motion first and tension second as you build up strength. I'll cover that in a video specifically on using a bike for your knees, and that will be coming soon. Okay, to sum it up, we want you to help your body create healthier synovial fluid. Motion is lotion and rest is rust. And I recommend using a bike so that you can get that big range of motion repeatedly with your knee and help to create that healthier synovial fluid, that nice thick fluid that's going to reduce friction, probably reducing your knee pain, and nourish whatever cartilage you have left in your knee. Hopefully you've got a knee that's full of healthy cartilage too. But even if you've just got some scraps left, like I did, you want those to be as healthy as they can be. Okay, so if you are not sure about hopping on a bike and getting going, and you really want to start this now, I recommend you join our Healthy Knees Formula program. We walk you through every step of the way, even if you've never been on a bike before. The good thing about stationary biking is you won't fall over. Okay, if you want to learn more, please go to healthykneescoach.com, and in the description here below this video, there is a link to that as well, so you can just click that link. All right, I am so happy to be here for you. I look forward to our time next week. please email me if you have any questions, robin@healthykneescoach.com, and I'm happy to answer your questions, and who knows, I might even make a video about that subject, because I figure if you have a question, many other people do. All right, let's have healthy and happy knees, and I'll see you next week.